price is what you pay, value is what you get. Right. So it's like when we think about that, it's like when people don't start it, you think it's because of a money issue. It was not a money issue. It was a value issue, right? You did not establish the value because people will very happily pay if they see the value, right? So value should actually drive your price.
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business, so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
What's up, Remarkables? Welcome to another episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast, Chiropractic's #1 business podcast. I'm Dr. Stephen Franson.
And I'm Dr. Pete Camiolo.
So guys, you're jumping into a conversation with two chiropractors who have both built and sold their $1 million practices to build and create a coaching company that's going to serve 1 million people a week. So Dr. Pete, I'm psyched for the conversations that we have here, especially excited for the conversation today, because we're going to talk about pricing. We're going to talk about money. And there's always, there's certain podcast topics that tend to hit and resonate a little more than others. Whenever we talk about moolah, whenever we talk about money, people are like, yeah, man, I need to learn more about this money thing. So I'm excited to get into it. We're going to talk about pricing. We're going to talk about how price communicates value, and value is driven by experience and or outcomes. We're going to teach people how to increase their revenue and their profit margin by increasing their pricing, by driving a better experience, better outcomes for their people.
So something I'm really passionate about, Doc, is both of those things, experiences and outcomes. And so if this resonates with anybody out there, we hope that you walk away with two major takeaways: that the experience matters and the outcomes matter, and that those both bundled together give you a wide range of opportunity when it comes to your pricing. So I've actually been in an email thread over the last 2 days with a doc, and it's about pricing. I had a mastermind meeting today, and one of the convictions that came out of it was pricing. I had another mastermind meeting where someone was talking about how they just changed their pricing. And so this is a conversation that we know is going to speak directly into your listening. I want to give you 3 examples, 3 different docs, 3 different businesses this week, today, just on one Thursday, in my life. So Doc, I know this is going to land, and I love the angle that we're going to take on this by hitting it from both sides, and how pricing is going to be presented today and how we're going to unpack it. I think you're going to get a ton of value. Everybody that's tuning in. So welcome aboard.
Yeah, I think that, what we have to address initially is just, we got to let go of some of the limiting beliefs that we have, right? So it's like, I think that let me just call it what it is. There's a poverty complex in chiropractic, mainly because most chiropractors got so deep in debt just to get into business, right? So by the time you got through undergrad, then through chiropractic school, and then you opened up a business, right? So I don't know about you, but I think I was like $750,000 in debt. I mean, I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together when I first came out of school. And, at the end of the day, that imprints on you, right? So it's like, of course you think everybody's that desperate and everybody's that broke. So you end up with just this conflict of like, man, I know how valuable chiropractic care is and the outcomes that we deliver, right? So, and we know that every person walks in and they've got 2 lives ahead of them, right? A life of possibility and a life of probability, right? So if they don't get regular chiropractic care and just try to walk out their life subluxated, there is a life of probability that it ain't good, right? And it certainly doesn't end well, and it's incredibly expensive, right, to live that way, versus the life of possibility, which is if they learn the truth about what's possible with their health and what they should expect from their health and their healthcare, their role in their health, their responsibilities in health, what they should start doing and stop doing for them and their entire family, and the inflection point that it can be for them to actually embrace the chiropractic inside-out paradigm and lifestyle. How do you put a price on that, right? So it's like, there's a conflict there, because deep down inside, you're like, yeah, but people are broke. It's like, at the end of the day, the truth is most of the people that you're going to be talking to, they have more money than time. They're not broke. They're busy, right? They're overwhelmed. They're overoccupied, they're preoccupied, they're overscheduled, right? So this is like, that's really the dragon you have to slay. Stop thinking about the money piece of it. You need to get the money right, because you cannot out hustle a broken financial model. You can't out adjust a broken business model, right? So this is like, you cannot just out volume a jacked up financial model and be a successful business. You got to get the pricing right, Dr. Pete. Let's talk about what it takes to really drive pricing upward.
Yeah. So, I don't know about you, but I like nice things. I think it's important that you get what you pay for, what somebody says. Those are phrases that are out there, but I appreciate value, right? And I know, Dr. Stephen, you do too. You can tell the difference between something that was really well built, well put together, well created, well designed, whatever language you want to put in there, something that was done really well, and something that was not done as well. You might not be able to tell from the outside, but once you put it on or you start using it, you realize, wow, the value of this is very, very different. And I think this is a standard for me is if I was to come to your office and we were to put pressure on the business, can it handle it, right? Can it handle it? It's like buying a shovel and you go and you start digging holes and the freaking thing snaps because you just put your foot on it and you did one of those jump it down and try to get a little dirt out and it snaps the shovel. You realize shouldn't have went for the $12 shovel, should have got the $26 one. That's right. The one that probably was built to dig 1,000 holes and pass on to my grandkids. Like, probably should have got that shovel. Yeah. We want to actually even have a conversation that passes the litmus test that says this was built to last. We're building businesses on the bedrock of a principle that's priceless, on a gift of giving people back their health, giving them hope and responsibility. I remember talking to my patients and saying, do you know what it costs for this one injection? It was I think interleukin 2 or whatever. And there was this whole thing back in the day. Like, what does it cost for that? And it was help people with their cancer when they're getting chemo. You take interleukin to, contrast the immune compromised. And I was like, do you know what they charge for one of those? And then I would say, do you know what area releases interleukin 2 in your body? I was like, yeah, the mid-thoracic spine. I said, do you know how much I could charge you to adjust you? Because I just adjusted you right here. Do you see that adjustment right there? I was like, they would charge you $2,500 for for an injection or $50, whatever it was. And we're charging $55, $65, $75 for an adjustment that releases the same thing, interleukin, inside that body. It doesn't make sense. You can't put a price tag on what you do, but you have to be so connected to the value that you provide, the equivalent contrasted value of what it would cost if you were to try to organize an adjustment and put it into a pill that somebody could take. What would you charge somebody for that? The value of what we do is huge, but you've got to first, when you get your pricing right, Dr. Stephen, it starts upstream, which is your beliefs, your conviction, your certainty around the value of what it is that you actually deliver. And I think that's why I wanted to start there because, at the end of the day, you have to be what we do is so valuable that it's almost impossible to put a price tag on it. That's why we say we charge you for the education, a tuition, because the adjustment is priceless.
That's right.
That's a framework that every doctor and every CA needs to own. Because if you walk with that energy into the pre-shift huddle and into your report of findings, time block, and you're doing your checkouts at the front desk on your day one, when that energy is there, when you're doing your table talk, when you're doing your R4 and you're recommitting people, it's just a completely different energy. And it's an energy that pulls people in and they are happy and enthusiastic to make that investment in their health because they see the value that they're getting.
Yeah, I mean, we use the term pricing and value, and people kind of scramble that up. It's like price is what you pay, value is what you get, right? So it's like when we think about that, it's like when people don't start and you think it's because of a money issue, it was not a money issue. It was a value issue, right? You did not establish the value because people will very happily pay if they see the value, right? So value should actually drive your price. Now, this sounds like a bit of a riddle, right? So your value, you understand the value of what you're doing, the experience that you're giving your patients, and the outcomes that are available to your patients, right? So experience and outcomes, right? So that value should drive your pricing, right? So, but what we have to understand is flip side of that is price communicates value to the marketplace. Let's face it, guys. You ever been to a jewelry store? Wander into Tiffany's, right? Go look at the diamonds, right? So, and you're like, oh my gosh, man, like really? look at the prices. And you might see 3 rings all lined up and you're like, wow, are those numbers right? Am I like, where's the decimal point? like you're looking at these numbers, it's like, one looks so much like the other. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, guys, can I speak for all of us? It's like, we're looking at it, it's like, I do not see a difference between those two things. It's like, that's 2 carats, that's 2 carats, and that's 2 carats. Well, yeah, that one's 2.14 carats, that's 2.41 carats, and that one's 2.44 carats. We can't see that, right? And it's like, oh, and this one is this tone, this light. I don't know what I'm talking about, obviously, but when you look at it, it's like, yeah, that one's 100 grand, that one's 200 grand, that one's 400 grand. It's like, really? It's like, so which one's the best one? The 400 grand. It's like, how do you know that? Because it's the most expensive, right? You walk into a car lot, you know nothing about cars. You look at car 1, 2, and 3. This one's 85 grand. This one's 185 grand. This one's 385 grand. Which is the best one? That one. It's just like, I don't know boats. I walk up to the boat lot and I was like, hey, this one's 1.5 million. This one's 2 million. This one's 2.5 million. What's the best one? That one. It's like, you guys have to see it. You have to understand, like, no matter where you are in whatever marketplace, price communicates value. So when you think about it, it's just like, you, without even opening your mouth, without them having any experience or any interaction with you, already your pricing is communicating value, right? So you just got to think about that. Don't undermine the value. Okay. So remember, value is driven by experience and or outcome. So when you hear us say, our purpose is to give patients a better health experience and a better health outcome. It's not just about dying well, right? It's not just about having that outcome, right? It's about having a better health experience throughout the arc of their life. That's your product. That's what you're selling. Like, you're not selling adjustments. Ain't nobody buying adjustments, right? So it's just like, they're not buying your process, procedures, your adjustments, your modalities, your progress exams, x-rays, workshops. That's not what they're buying. They're buying the outcomes, the perceived outcomes, and the experience that delivers those outcomes. So value is going to be driven by their experience and or their outcomes. And people will pay more for a better experience. They'll pay more for better outcomes. Can you imagine when you can deliver both a better experience and a better outcome? Imagine how people will happily, eagerly, readily pay more.
So I'll give you an example of this. In my clinic and what we do in Remarkable Practice, we use the word experience a lot. And we've been using this word forever. Actually, my clinic, we called the new patient experience, we called it the experience. That was what it was titled, the experience. Because we knew starting on day 0, there needed to be something unique and different, that when they contacted Revolution, it was like, this is different than anywhere we've ever went to before. Like, you speak differently, you listen differently, this is a different feel and look. This is different. It's unique. I feel good about this. I'm glad that I contacted you. I'm glad my friend referred me to you. I'm glad I ran into one of your doctors out at the thing and I decided to take the next step, whatever. From day 0, that they're like, man, this is different. This place I like this place. Like, I like what you guys are up to. And then, so the entire process that they went through was called the experience. And I think what I love about it, as I reflect now back, years and years later, it's like, we knew that in the marketplace, people have choices, and that people are going to come into my office, they're going to pay cash money, real money, out of their pocket for the care, because we were cash only. And so I knew we had to create an experience for someone that they'd be willing to go, I can go to this guy or that guy across town, down the street, around the corner, right up the block, or I can come to you. What's the difference? Well, you can't get any of this anywhere else. Any of what? The experience, and then, of course, the outcomes, which we were so confident that we could drive the best health outcomes for the people. And we made it very clear with our testimonial culture that you want to get outcomes and you have what condition? Oh, yeah, come over here. Let me show you all the people that are coming with that. Here's their story. And they were all over the walls, everywhere. We did it by condition specifically, so we could just walk somebody right up to a wall with all the conditions and all the people, and we said, there they are. So the experience is critical. So my wife and I, we went on an overnight, and so we go overnight. We don't, it's a staycation or whatever. We went on an overnight, and we wanted to just have a good time. So a couple restaurant reservations, some nice restaurants. My buddy recommended I go to this awesome French restaurant, and I went there for a specific dish. He's like, you've got to go because they have this dish. Similar to Dr. Steven when we had a dish when I came and visited you as well. So a lot of places you go at this point in my life, I'm like, I go there for this one thing they have. That's the best. I've never had it as good anywhere else. That's where we go. So it's one of those places, this French restaurant. So we go in there. I have high expectations because my buddy has a good palate. I trust him. He knows me. So we go there. And it started off great. Mary was looking cute. I think I was looking pretty good. I was paying attention to her. We were ready to rock and roll, feeling a little bit rested. Go in there, and we get seated, and all of a sudden it started to go a little bit sideways when I was delivered my drink. And I looked at it, and I was like, this is so different looking than what I thought it was going to look like. You ever order a drink, and you're like, I never thought it would have looked like that. No pictures, on the menus at this restaurant kind of thing. And I'm like, man, and then I took one little sip of that thing, and I was like, heck no, this is not it. Like, I don't know what's going on. So I just raised my hand, could you? Well, it took forever for the waitress to come back. Next thing you know, we put our order in, finally get the drink right, but it took a long time. Then the food comes out, completely the wrong thing, and we're just scratching our head. We went through this entire experience at this restaurant, and it was terrible. Mary, my wife, literally 3 times during the meal was like, I'm out. I'm out of here. And I'm like, come on, we're actually having kind of a good conversation. But it was one of those experiences that got ruined by one thing, which was some bad service. The food I thought tasted good, but my wife, she's like, nope, I'm never going back there. I didn't even like the food, and I didn't like the experience. I'm not going back. The manager of the restaurant clearly knew this person was off their game. I think they were either drunk or on drugs or something like that. They ended up getting dismissed during the shift we were on. They got sent out and sent home. Well, she brought us, they comped our meal, which was amazing. I wasn't expecting. And she gave me her card with her number. So next time you come, hey, just let them know, show them this card, and we'll take care of you. She felt really bad. And yet, we've never been back. And my wife is like, no, we're not doing that. I probably have a little bit more grace because I was like, I actually thought the meal was pretty good, and I would go back, especially if a different person served us. Plus, we got this card, But the thing was, it was ruined because of the experience. It was going to be a pretty
expensive.
Pricing was upper end.
Yep.
French restaurant. I would have paid more. I would have been happy to. But man, I was thrilled when we didn't have to pay for that meal because it was such a bad experience.
There was a mismatch.
It was a mismatch. And that's what, Dr. Stephen, this is about. And let me say this. Every single customer that walks through your doors every single time is thinking about this. Whether they're consciously or subconsciously, they're thinking about, this is an exchange of the value of my time, which is the most expensive, because I drove all the way over here and I sat in 2 really long red lights to get here. My energy, which I got a lot going on in my life, and I have a limited amount of energy, and I got to make sure I spend it in the right places because it's limited, my focus, and my money. And all 4 of those limited resources are being deposited every time somebody walks into your office, every time somebody goes through there. And you've got to be conscious of and aware of that. And whether you're going for a restaurant or you're coming to a chiropractor or wherever you're going, that's what's at stake. So that's just, Dr. Stephen, a story that I know for me, it helps me remember, man, every single day, every time, it's so sensitive. We have to be aware of this and creating remarkable experiences for our people and driving the kind of outcomes that they deserve and they want, and we know that we want to be known for and we can deliver.
So you use the term, one of my favorite adjectives, remarkable, right? So people are like, oh, I like your brand. It's like, this is a highly intentional brand, right? So remarkable means worthy of comment, right? So I think chiropractic is remarkable, right? I think the work that you do is remarkable, right? So the chiropractic adjustments, remarkable. The results we get, the outcomes, remarkable, right? Like the story, the simple and elegant solution, the truth of chiropractic, it's remarkable. Mm-hmm. It's worthy of comment. We should be the talk of the town. You should be a remarkable practice. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not that people are satisfied and that they will come back when they need you type of thing. It is, you're the talk of the town. They talk about you. Like when a new show comes out on television or a new restaurant opens up in town, right? It's like, or the new hotel, you got to go check it out. That is remarkable. People are talking about it. They're remarking about it, right? So worthy of comment. Think about it as the experience and the outcomes you're driving in your inside of your practice, remarkable, right? So the concept of your restaurant story, you had the outcome you were looking for. I mean, let's just call it what it is. You got some great food and you're like, this food's actually really delicious. My waitress was hopeless and she kept screwing up the order, but the food that eventually I was eating was really yummy, right? So that was a bit of an outcome, but the experience screwed it up, right? So it's like, we got to think about it in our chiropractic office is like, hey, we deliver miracles under the chiropractic adjustment. It's just like, we are removing interference bodies. So it's like, we have starfish miracles going on in our office. Somebody lost their arm in a farming accident. thigh adjusted their atlas. It grew back. I mean, it's like we have these unbelievable outcomes. That's the outcome. What is their experience as a patient, right? And I'm not just talking about, oh, they've got, it's a beautiful office. They play nice music, right? They've got a coffee cart and tea in the corner. Don't lose the forest for the trees here. We're talking about their experience that they are going to talk about. Like they met with me on day one. They sat me down and they listened. They asked me questions people have never asked me. No doctor has ever asked me these questions before. They asked me questions behind the questions, and I actually found myself telling them about what was going on with me, how was this screwing up my life, what I was trying to accomplish. They listened. They reiterated back to me. They actually get me. They totally, guys, that's the experience. Do you know how much training it takes for you and your team to be able to do that? That's the experience. That's why you have to have process, procedure, scripting. That's why we train. Why do we have that? So you can be excellent, deliver a remarkable experience, and focus on the people, not on the process. You train hard so it gets into your nervous system. You know what to do and what to say because you've trained. So now you can focus on the people that God's trusting you with that comes through the front door. It's like, you're not focused on, what do I do now? Well, what do I say now? Well, what should I do with that? It's like, you absolutely are a weapon behind that front desk or in the adjustatorium. You are a trained weapon, right? So your hands are registered, right? So you know exactly what you should be doing. And that way you can focus on that human being in front of you, and they're going to breathe the variable. They're going to bring in the variable. Like, don't you be the variable. You've been trained up for this. And that's what it takes to really deliver a remarkable experience. So, Dr. Pete, I'm going to tell my own restaurant story. So I was at a UAC event with some of our good friends here. Everybody knows Dr. Mark Mao, Dr. Alan Miner, and we were there with our daughters, right? So it was like a daughter-daddy thing that we did with UAC. So we were taking the girls out for breakfast. We were there for a couple of days at this resort. And so I had my Emma, Mark had his daughter Lila, and then Alan had his two girls, Verity and Gigi, right? So these guys were, they're all best of friends. They've grown up together, and they know their way around a resort and a restaurant. Let's put it that way, right? So we're sitting there, and what we realized was there was two different buffets, two different restaurants, right? So in this resort, and you could go to either what was the really nice buffet, or you could go to the other one, was just a regular kind of run-of-the-mill powdered eggs type buffet, right? So it's like, so we nicknamed them the Jimmy Buffet and the Warren Buffet, right? So after like Jimmy Buffett and Warren Buffett, right? So the Jimmy Buffet was $15, right? The Warren Buffet, that was like $55 a head. So we were sitting there, and of course we're at the Warren Buffet here, and we're sitting there, and the check comes, and I grab it, and they're, hey, how much was this, Dad? And I'm like, I don't know, it was like $350 or something like that for breakfast. And they're like, for eggs? And they're like, did we just eat $350 worth of eggs? And I was like, guys, we could have got eggs over at the Jimmy Buffet, right? We're at the Warren Buffet. You're not paying for the eggs. You're paying for the experience, right? And I looked at the dads. I'm like, do you think the dads felt like we just had a $350 experience with our daughters here for 2 hours, just laughing and telling stories and just bonding? It's just like, I was like, this was a $3,000 in this beautiful environment. Is like the perfect setting. So Dr. Pete, at the end of the day, the price communicates value, right? So, and value is driven by a remarkable experience and remarkable outcomes. So get your head on the other side of like, oh man, I don't think people can afford that or will pay that or whatever. Don't put your energy there. Don't focus there. Don't judge them. Your job is not to read people. Your job is to lead people and lead them through a remarkable experience, and watch what happens. They'll be more than happy to play, and you will be remarkable practice. You will be the talk of the town.
Please stick around for more business insights from this week's bonus interview with our remarkable success partner, dedicated to helping you more successfully help more people. Enjoy.
We're here with Dan from Twoconnect, one of our fantastic success partners in Australia. Dan, tell us a little bit about the specific problems that Twoconnect solves for chiropractic clinics that are engaging with Twoconnect and using them for their services. What problems do you guys solve as a business?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew, and great to be here. Basically, the problems that we're solving is helping with certain administrative aspects of practices. So that very often can break down into the problems of specifically to lead conversion and patient life cycle and reactivation. So what we hear a lot as we're talking to chiros is a kind of low level anxiety about, are we following up on leads A, quickly enough, and B, enough times? It might take multiple calls. Do our front of house staff really have the bandwidth to be doing that? So there's a feeling that no, we're probably not. We're leaving revenue on the table there. The other piece as well is about reactivation. So, we've got this big database of people that have come in. Maybe there's people 6, 12, 18 months we haven't heard from. Do we have any real meaningful engagement with them? Probably not so much. So again, there's a problem there with not maximizing that database and not going back and getting conversions, running campaigns. And then probably a third would just be other administrative aspects. So there might be things that can sit behind the scenes that can be done from an offshore perspective, because to be clear, what we're talking about is a dedicated team member working in the Philippines for the practice. And this might be things like X-ray roll-ups, or it might be doing certain aspects of reporting, punching numbers into spreadsheets, right through to, as I say, the more sort of patient-facing roles. So,
So
yeah.
I guess kind of in a nutshell, what you're talking about is finding a labor force outside of the local area. And, I've got a busy practice. I've got numerous CAs, and finding an A player in is difficult. We've had hiring processes where we get 150 to 200 applications, and maybe 3 of them are worth actually pulling into the clinic and having a face-to-face interview. So that can be super frustrating.
Yeah.
So you're talking about finding a specialized labor force outside of your local area, specifically the Philippines.
Yeah.
And so from the sounds of it, you've helped people with their marketing and lead follow-up and lead generation, or taking them from, a prospect into a patient, converting them to a patient.
Yeah.
You've also, interesting, you mentioned like ruling up x-rays and those kind of little tasks.
Yeah.
You find specialized people that can do that sort of stuff, train them up for what we want to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. The way that the model works is that we have a chat with the chiro and go, like, what's the role profile? Like, what are you after? What's the need? Where's the pain? And then we go, okay, well, here's a position description. Does that meet that? Any tweaks to this, any arrangements? And then it's like, yes, let's go forward. And if it's go forward, give us a couple of weeks. We'll come back with 3 to 4 candidates who meet that brief, who have some kind of background. So it might be, say, a medical background, or even if sometimes it can be a more salesy background, for example. And we go, right, here's these 3 to 4 candidates. Which one do you like best? And then maybe we can do some role plays or some scenario-based testing to really de-risk it and make sure we've got the right person. And then, yeah, we deploy them. So yeah, it's a pretty simple model. It basically, a lot of it rests on us. It's de-risked because you're not paying anything until that person's actually starting work. And it's also, you're not having to bring on another employer and all of the employment liability with that, because they're employed to our legal entity in the Philippines. We manage all of the HR, the payroll, the holiday management, all of that. And they align to Australian time zones, they align to your national holidays. So all of that heavy lifting is done in the background. You just get that full-time team member. You get to select the one that you want. And we're off and running.
Yeah, that actually sounds like a major problem solver for a lot of particularly busy practices, but even, I guess, you've probably had scenarios where people who are, solo practitioner or not too many staff have engaged with your services to really help them expand and grow. So for example, for our built docs who are just starting out and just starting to get the clinic rolling, and they need somebody specialized, but they've got a jack of all trades at the front, which is often what happens when you hire your first CA. I guess you guys can add an extra dimension into specializing particular roles reasonably quickly from what.
That is the case. That is the case. Or I will say, I want to be transparent about this. I do understand that often there's a certain point or a certain scale where this starts making more sense. And often that is, maybe there is 2 to 3 plus fully loaded chiropractors where you start to go, right, we've got CAs but those CAs are busy and we got admin building up again, are we calling people enough? That's when this model can probably really start to come into play and the ROI starts to come into effect. I just wanted to be clear about that because solo practitioners, often just that single CA might be covering things, and we do provide full-time roles. So that's where that sort of ROI stack up starts to come into play.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of that ROI, what kind of ROI can a CEO expect from investing in engaging with Twoconnect, bringing in somebody offshore, a virtual chiropractic assistant? Have you got a case study or an example?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we've got multiple case studies, and I guess the underlying maths is that getting one of our virtual CAs or patient support representatives or lead conversion specialists, it's going to cost between 55 and 65% less than hiring someone onshore for for that uh, requisite level of skill set. So if you start to think about that and where the ROI, say, for like the Back Doctor or Chiro H3 or some of these businesses that we've worked with, Wellbeing Chiropractic as well, it's when you're going, right, we've got this full-time resource who's costing half what a normal person would cost. There's no, superannuation or anything like that to worry about. And the call volumes that are being made because they're dedicated to this is usually 7-fold. So therefore, we've seen conversion rates, double and triple based on just being able to deploy that cost-effective resource appropriately to that conversion funnel, basically. And again, similarly, sometimes there's a split or a hybrid role where they're doing some of that lead conversion stuff, but also they're taking admin away from the CA. So that's where the ROI kicks in. And there's also, I think, critically a real patient and actual customer satisfaction piece as well. So what I mean is the front of house COs, the people physically there, are able to, the phone is not ringing as much basically, and they're not having to make as many phone calls, and maybe there's inboxes being taken care of at a certain level as well. Therefore, that's going to translate into a more present patient experience. What that also means is that output is happening from the offshore perspective.
So in terms of, I guess, when we're talking about the direct ROI and we talk about the, cost to acquire a customer,
Yeah.
it's, I guess, a bit of a balancing act, right? Because if we're going to invest in offshore help and we're going to invest in, digital marketing, which is, reasonably expensive for a chiropractic profession, unless you're doing it really right and you've got your ads optimized, all that kind of stuff, but it's still an expense. One thing that I don't like with my digital leads that I've paid to acquire is I don't like them sitting in our CRM waiting for someone to touch them. And we know that there's so much data on this that the faster you call that prospect once they're in your CRM, the higher the likelihood of them actually coming into your practice. And I think it was something like the research was 87% more likely if you call them within the first 5 minutes. Now, I run a busy practice. I know my CAs work hard. Often they just don't have the time resource to do that. So I guess what you're talking about is a protection of the ROI that you're already putting into marketing to, funnel in those leads. And also you mentioned the reactivation campaigns. You're right. We've got a whole bunch of a large database of people that have only stopped coming in because they just kind of lost their way. It's not because they didn't love chiropractic.
Yeah.
Because, they weren't having a great experience. They just kind of got a little bit lost and they slipped through the cracks.
Yeah, or often there's something really small, and we see our clients being smart and doing reactivation campaigns that aren't, hey, you haven't been in for a while, do you want to come back in? It's more, you can almost position it as like a feedback gathering kind of survey kind of piece. So you're calling saying, not sure if you recall, but 8, 10 months ago you came in and we're just doing doing a piece of work to understand what that experience was like. Was there anything, what was that experience for you? And sometimes doing that, somebody can bring up that thing, whatever that was that barrier that made them come back. And then, of course, what you can do is do work to go, oh, okay, well, if that's the case, and you can overcome that objection and get them back in as well. So it can be a multifaceted. So you're getting feedback from the market about what your patients are feeling, especially the ones who aren't coming back. You can start building that up and go, listen, what I'm hearing is, you can build lists of these are the reasons that people aren't coming back in. Some of them might be known. You might go, sure, maybe it's money related, or maybe but maybe there's an experience that they're having that you're not aware about. So again, it's that patient care. So yes, quicker to call. Also, the reactivations, getting information from that database and getting conversions from that. But also, you can just perhaps layer in a patient life cycle touch that you never had before because we've got resource to do it. Wouldn't it be good if, after X point or Y point, they got a call and were asked this specific question, or we're given this specific piece of information, for example. So you can really start to get smart and much more interactive with your client base.
And I think probably the beautiful thing about that, especially in an age of, bots and automated calls and all that kind of stuff, is we're actually talking about speaking to an actual person,
Yeah.
human touch, which is,
Yes.
you know,
And listen, on that point, Andrew, I would just want to bring something up, which I think is fair. Sometimes people say, okay, offshore resource, I get it, it's cheaper, sure. But, what is that accent like? What's the English like? And I'd say two things to that. One, this wouldn't be up and running successfully in this space if we weren't talking about people who were great, bubbly, empathetic communicators. They absolutely, the expectation is that they have a very high level. The second piece is that you don't have to take our word for it. The way that the model works is you see the candidates, you make the choice. And if you simply said, well, these candidates aren't, up to scratch from any perspective, but if it was communication perspective, then it's on us to find you some better candidates. I just wanted to take that off the table because I know that sometimes people go offshore. I've got concerns about, how that's going to come across with our brand. That is something that we do take care of, and you are always in control of that.
And you know what? I think it's a bigger problem in people's mind than it actually is in reality. I actually have somebody from the Philippines who's local who works on my front desk. And nobody bats an eyelid when she rings them and makes a genuine call from the front desk. So they go, oh yeah, she works there.
Yeah.
The more multicultural your workforce is, the less people are stressed about it. Do you know what I mean?
That's what I believe for sure.
I think we've actually kind of touched on this question, but the next thing I wanted to ask you was when we consider what's important next in kind of looking at the future trajectory of the chiropractic profession, the way the world is heading, how are you helping chiropractors to prepare to succeed in the future?
Yeah, look, I think what it is we sit in that critical piece, which is where the remarkable practice sits, which is with chiropractors who are going, how am I looking to build that business machine? Really, that funnel, all of the metrics that sit behind it, CAC to LTV, all of these, critical metrics. As you start moving in that direction, naturally you're measuring those things so that you can improve those phases. You can improve each stage, whether it be conversion, whether it be life cycle, whether it be whatever the case may be. And what offshoring allows is to say, hang on a second, traditionally, this phase of what we do, this part of our offering just incurs this amount of cost and this amount of effort in terms of recruiting new people, recruiting CAs to come in. Actually, it turns out that the CAs that we hire, a lot of them, they're good with our people, but they don't really like, getting on the phones. That's a bit of a sort of a have to do and that kind of thing. So it completely changes that equation. And we can come and say, right, let's look at all that overall business. Let's look at that pain and let's look at that cost. And let's fundamentally change that. We can cut that in half or even better. And we can move to a more metrics-based approach where we are using these metrics and getting more metrics input from these people as well, because they have the time to be actually putting in things into spreadsheets or into CRMs and things like that, measuring that, building reports off the back of that. So I'd say, the thing is, what we're doing is we're helping chiropractors scale with just dramatically reducing that operating costs from a people perspective. But that kind of bandwidth and those types of roles we're also seeing is helping feed into improved metrics as well. Yeah, those are probably the key points that I'd make. Perhaps a final thing as well is that if there is a point where practices maybe are thinking of growing and there's maybe multiple practices or multiple locations as well, this solution can work really well for that. So we've got one person who can now be working across two locations, three locations, or however many locations that you need. So it's basically a way of helping accelerate growth by driving efficiency, reducing cost, and improving the way that you're working with metrics.
You mentioned that CAC to LTV ratio, right? And we're also talking about protecting that investment that you put into marketing. And if you can optimize your marketing funnel for the same amount of ad spend, then your CAC goes down.
Yeah.
And if we're doing it efficiently, even if we add that expense of, offshore, the CAC still goes down because it's significantly more optimized and perhaps converting prospects from, I don't know, throw some numbers out, 20, if we can get it to 30 or 40%, the immediate ROI.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm sure you've heard this, but we do again hear that anxiety of like, well, I would like to put some more money in the top of the funnel and spend more money on marketing, but I'm not really sure we're going to catch it. Like we're just going to be money in, but that's more calls, and we're already struggling to make those returns. So it does free up and make that growth feel a little bit more possible, a little bit more sustainable. But it's not just the CAC, it's the LTV as well, because if you're able to communicate more regularly at more critical touch points with a patient, and again, get back into those traditional someone who, right, the LTV has come to an end, not if we're doing reactivations in smart ways as well. So it's both ends of that
both ends of the scale. That's the dream.
Yeah.
And so I guess what we're really talking about is Twoconnect can come along and they can plug that leaky bucket, plug the hole in that leaky bucket, whether that leaky bucket represents, the marketing funnel and just leads, prospects just dropping out of that funnel because they're not getting called fast enough, or the genuine patient base who people are leaking out of that bucket just because they get lost and there's no reactivation campaign.
Yeah.
So
that's it.
That sounds like a wonderful solution. Now, I've actually got one other question that I'm just going to throw in there. There's a lot of different offshoring kind of agencies. Sometimes people go searching for themselves. You touched on this briefly, but what sets Twoconnect apart from those other agencies and the option of looking for offshore labor?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. I think the DNA of Twoconnect is interesting because it's a family-run business. And the story actually is that the Kukla family who set up the business lived in the Philippines for a long period of time. And the founder and MD actually basically grew up there. So there's a real understanding and connection with the country, with the people, with the culture, and also a deep understanding of the workforce and what it takes to do business over there. So there's kind of a dual mission for Twoconnect, which is, yes, to serve our clients with excellence, but it's also to provide great working opportunities for hardworking Filipinos and their families as well. So, for example, we have private health insurances built into the offering. So we've got a really good reputation over there of looking after our people incredibly well. The other piece is that part of our basis and our partnerships over in the Philippines was that it started from a medical background. So we've always understood how to operate in that space, the importance of looking after patients and having how to source those people and look after them really well. So those are probably the key points. And quite frankly, now I think that Twoconnect has more chiropractic clients than frankly anyone else. So we've carved out a niche, and we've got to work with the remarkable practice and really spend some time understanding how chiropractors work and what the drivers and needs are.
Yeah, and look, we're a unique profession, and our needs and focuses are completely different. And having somebody who understands, you're already talking about cost to acquire a customer versus lifetime value ratios, all that kind of stuff. So it's good to see that we have these success partners that can genuinely fix a problem for our remarkable client practice or our remarkable practice clients, but also that they add value to their community. I remember you talking about, like, you guys even go above and beyond to make sure they get a birthday cake or something for their birthday, and that helps improve
Company policy. Yeah.
employee retention is what we want, right? If we get an A player, we want to hold on to that A player. Sounds like you guys are nailing it.
Yep.
So I'm sure that after our little conversation, a lot of people listening are like, you know what? This is the solution that I need to help scale my practice further. What's the best way for a listener to learn more or take the next step to get in touch with you?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. So firstly, I'd say there might be some listening who say, wow, this is definitely something I need. And there might be another demographic who are just saying, there might be something there. And even if it's not now, I'd kind of like to figure out a little bit how it might work, even if it's in 6 to 12 months that this might come into focus more meaningfully. So more than happy to, I just want to make that clear. I'd be more than happy to speak to absolutely anyone, wherever you're at on that stage, even if it's a 10, 15-minute little fact finding mission, and we can throw some pricing around, answer a couple of questions and check in 6, 12 months. So completely fine with that. So basically, my name's Dan Anticich. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you go onto the Twoconnect .com.au website, you can submit via a form there, and I'll get in touch with you from there. Or, well, yeah, that's pretty much it. The Twoconnect website, go there, get in touch, and I'd love to chat, and we can arrange a time to go through things.
And I'm sure if anyone listening just went, oh, okay, I don't know which one I'm going to do, fail safe is just send a message to somebody at the Remarkable Practice, and we'll put you in touch with Dan.
Absolutely right. Appreciate that.
Thanks for your time today, Dan. And as always, it's a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic. And what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors.